dear students, welcome back. In the previous class, we have discussed why to conserve biodiversity. That is, because of various benefits we need to conserve biodiversity. I have mentioned the different benefits like ecological benefits, economical benefits and ethical benefits. So due to all these benefits, we need to conserve biodiversity. Now, in this class, we will discuss how to conserve biodiversity. In the previous class, we have seen that why to conserve biodiversity, but in this class, we will see how to conserve biodiversity. How to conserve biodiversity. Actually, what is biodiversity conservation? You know what is biodiversity and you know what is conservation. So, what is actually the biodiversity conservation? The protection and preservation of living organisms in their natural habitat is called biodiversity conservation. The protection, we are protecting the organisms and we are preserving the living organisms in their natural habitat is called biodiversity conservation. And here there are two approaches or there are two types of conservation. So there are two types of conservation. One is called as in situ conservation and other one is called ex situ conservation. There are two types of conservation. One is called in situ conservation, other one is ex situ conservation. So this in situ conservation is called as on-site conservation and this ex situ is called as off-site. So what do you mean by on-site and off-site? Here on-site refers to within the natural habitat. Within the natural habitat. I mean to say conservation of species within their natural habitat is called as on-site or in situ conservation. Here off-site refers to outside the natural habitat. Outside the natural habitat. When I give the example, you can understand better what is on-site and off-site. See, the tiger which is usually living in the forest, whenever we want to conserve the tiger, so we need to conserve the tiger. In order to conserve the tiger, we are conserving the forest also. Because forest is the main territory for the tiger. So in order to conserve tiger, we are conserving the forest, which means we are conserving the tiger in its natural habitat. We are conserving the species within the natural habitat, that is called as on-site or in situ conservation. Then we will take the same example, tiger. If the number of tiger population is very less in the forest, if the population of a tiger it is about 2 or 3, if only 2 or 3 tigers which are present in the forest, you know that if the number is very less, they are critically endangered and they are about to extinct, isn't it? So as they are about to extinct in the future, we need to conserve the tiger. But in the forest we cannot conserve them, and we think that it is not better to keep them in the forest, and we will take out the tiger out of the natural habitat and we will be conserving the tiger in captivity. Captivity is nothing but we will keep the tiger in zoo. So that is called as ex situ conservation or off-site, because we are conserving the tiger outside its natural habitat in captivity. That's why it is outside. So this is what I need to say. What is on-site and what is off-site. Now in this class we will be talking about in situ conservation, that is on-site conservation. So in the next class we can take up the ex situ conservation. Now in this class we will be talking about only in situ conservation. Yeah, already you know the definition. What is in situ conservation? The conservation of species within their natural habitat is called as in situ conservation. The name only says in situ refers to we are conserving the species within their natural habitat. Then we'll see the examples are the various methods of in situ conservation. Here we have different methods of in situ conservation like hotspots. They can be called as hotspots or biodiversity hotspots, and protected areas, and next sacred groves and sacred landscapes. So these are the various methods of in situ conservation. So first we will discuss about hotspots, biodiversity hotspots. Yeah, what is actually a hotspot? A hotspot or a biodiversity hotspot is the region where there is a high species richness. High species richness and high degree of endemism. High degree of endemism. You may get a question about hotspot. What are biodiversity hotspots? The regions where there is high species richness and high degree of endemism. In that particular region, we can find a different variety of living organisms, that is species richness. Then what is endemism? Endemism refers to the species which is confined to that particular area and cannot be found in other areas, and it cannot be seen anywhere else. So that is what called as endemism. For example, you know kangaroo. So kangaroo, it is endemic to Australia, which means kangaroos are restricted or confined to Australia and cannot be seen anywhere else. So that is endemism. Many endemic species can be seen in biodiversity hotspots. So in these hotspots, there is a high species richness and high degree of endemism. Some of the species which can be confined to only this particular region and cannot be seen anywhere else. And initially, 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified. Later, subsequently, 9 more biodiversity hotspots were added to the list, and now the total number of biodiversity hotspots in world is 34. The total number of biodiversity hotspots in world is 34. Initially, 25 hotspots were identified. Later, 9 were added to the list. Now, the total number is 34. And out of 34, in India, there are 3 biodiversity hotspots. You should remember the number of biodiversity hotspots. So all over the world there are 34 biodiversity hotspots, and in India there are 3 biodiversity hotspots. Then which are the 3 biodiversity hotspots which are present in India? So these are namely Western Ghats. The first one is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. The second one is Indo-Burma region, and third one is Eastern Himalaya. So these are the 3 biodiversity hotspots which were identified in India, namely Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma region and Eastern Himalaya. So you should remember the names of the biodiversity hotspots in India, and these 3 are regarded as the richest biodiversity regions. As they are hotspots, as they are considered as hotspots, we can find the greater species richness and endemic species in these 3 regions. And the Eastern Himalaya, which can also be regarded as cradle of speciation, are also called as Valley of Flowers. Due to the rich biodiversity of primitive flowering plants which are present in Eastern Himalaya. So Eastern Himalaya, it is regarded as a cradle of speciation or valley of flowers due to rich biodiversity of primitive flowering plants. So this is about biodiversity hotspots. So biodiversity hotspots are the regions with high species richness and high degree of endemism. So all over the world there are 34 hotspots. In India only 3 biodiversity hotspots. So as I mentioned. Now we will discuss about the protected areas. So what are protected areas? The protected areas having ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions. The protected areas where these are ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions, and these are legally conserved or legally protected. They are legally protected. They are ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions which are legally protected as national parks. They are legally protected as national parks, sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves. Yeah, the protected areas which are legally protected as national parks, sanctuaries and biosphere reserves. So what are these national parks? So these are the vast areas of protected natural habitat and which will be covering about thousands of acres. The vast areas of protected habitat covering thousands of acres, and this national park may include the mountains, rivers, forest, desert or grasslands. So it is such a huge area. I am saying that it may include mountains, rivers, desert, forest, etc. That's why it is a huge area. And here in the national parks, the flora and fauna which are conserved in its natural habitat. You know what is the flora? About plants, and you know what is the fauna? About the animals. So the flora and fauna which are conserved well in its natural habitat. And very importantly, no human activities are permitted in these areas. Human activities like cultivation, grazing, etc. are completely restricted in these areas. It is very important, you should note on this. In national parks, no human activities are permitted. No human activities are permitted, and the national parks are controlled by IUCN. That is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So national parks are always controlled by IUCN. And in India there are about 104 national parks. In India there are 104 national parks. For example, Banerghatta National Park, Kudremukh National Park which is located in Karnataka, and Kaziranga National Park in Assam, Yellowstone National Park in USA. So there are various examples which we have given in your study material. You just remember the number of national parks in India, it is 104. And it is controlled by IUCN, and here no human activities are permitted. The human activities are completely restricted. So this is about national parks. Then what are sanctuaries? So sanctuaries, these are also the protected natural habitat. It is also a protected natural habitat, but which is smaller than that of the national parks. Which is smaller than that of the national parks, and here the human activities are permitted. Human activities like cultivation of forest products, timber, etc. So these human activities are permitted for some extent, not completely. So in sanctuaries, the human activities like a collection of forest products and timber which will be permitted for some extent. Then in India there are about 551 wildlife sanctuaries. So how many wildlife sanctuaries are there in India? It is about 551. 151. You may be knowing that Ranganatittu Bird Sanctuary, Nagarhode Wildlife Sanctuary. So these are certain examples for sanctuaries. So here it is smaller than national park. Human activities, some human activities are permitted for some extent, and there are 551 wildlife sanctuaries in India. So that is sanctuaries. Next one, biosphere reserve. Before going to know about the biosphere reserve, we need to know about the reserves. So reserves, these are also the protected natural habitat, but which is smaller than sanctuaries. The reserves are smaller than sanctuaries, and here whenever we talk about reserve, it mainly says that here the protection or conservation of one or two threatened species. So in reserves, it is meant for conserving one or two threatened species. See, for example, in Kerala, there is a tiger reserve called as Periyar Tiger Reserve in Kerala, and Bandipur Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. The name only says that here in these two places only the tigers are conserved. So as I said, the reserve, it is meant for conserving one or two threatened species. In these two areas, only one type of species is conserved. Then when we come to biosphere reserve, biosphere reserves are actually the large areas. The reserves are small, but the biosphere reserves are large, special and undisturbed areas. So biosphere reserves, these are large, special, undisturbed areas where the wildlife is protected in its natural habitat. The wildlife is protected in its natural habitat, but the biosphere reserve is very large and it is undisturbed area. And this biosphere reserve, as I said, it is large. It may include sanctuary, it may include national park, or it may include both. So such a huge biosphere resource can be seen. So that's why I told you these are large and undisturbed areas. And in India, there are 18 biosphere reserves. There are about 18 biosphere reserves in India. For example, Bannerghatta Biosphere Reserve and Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, etc. So these are the biosphere reserves. You should remember. And one more thing, it is meant for creating awareness. This biosphere reserve, it is meant for creating awareness and boosting up of man and biosphere program. It is mainly meant for creating awareness and boosting up of man and biosphere program. And in India, there are 18 biosphere reserves as I mentioned. So these are the protected areas. Now we will take the sacred groves and sacred landscapes. So all these are very important, and the name and number is also very important. Yeah, the next one is sacred groves. So what are sacred groves? Actually, these are the traditionally conserved patch of forest. You may be seeing a large forest. Among that large forest, a small patch of forest is conserved and it is dedicated to the local people or local deity. What is a sacred grove? It is the traditionally conserved small patch of forest. Small patch of forest which is dedicated to the local deity. Which means here government will be assigning that small patch of forest to the local people who are residing near to the forest. Because those local people, local deity, they will be treating that forest as a traditional. That's why, because of that reason, the government has been assigned that particular forest, that particular patch of forest to those people, because that forest will be protected by the local people. Then the examples for sacred groves like Western Ghats in Karnataka, Western Ghats in Karnataka, Aravali Hills in Rajasthan, Aravali Hills in Rajasthan, Khasi and Jaintia Hills in Meghalaya, and Sarguja, Chanda, Bastar areas of Madhya Pradesh. So these are the sacred groves like Western Ghats in Karnataka, Aravali Hills in Rajasthan, Khasi and Jaintia Hills in Meghalaya, Sarguja, Chanda, Bastar areas of Madhya Pradesh. So these are the traditionally conserved patch of forest which is dedicated to the local deity. Then what is sacred landscape? So it is similar to sacred groves, but here it is a patch of forest which is conserved by the local deity. But the sacred landscapes are the traditionally conserved patch of land. Patch of land. So some patch of land will be treated as a traditional and that will be protected and conserved by again the local deity. So sacred landscapes, these are the traditionally conserved small patch of land which is dedicated to the local ancient deity. And examples for the sacred landscapes are like Devara Kadu, Huli Devara Kadu, Nagabana in Dakshina Kannada and Shivamogga district in Karnataka. So these are about the different methods of in situ conservation. Now you may have an idea about why these are called as in situ conservation, because in all these aspects the conservation of species taking place in its natural habitat. That's why it is referred to as in situ or on-site conservation. So this is about in situ conservation. Now we will discuss few objective questions related to the today's class. See question number 100. When there are situations where an animal or plant is endangered or threatened and needs urgent measures to save it from extinction, which is a desirable approach. Try to understand the question. Now the animal or plant is endangered or threatened and needs urgent measure to save it from the extinction. So which is a desirable approach? Option A, in situ conservation. Option B, ex situ conservation. Option C, in vivo conservation. Option D, in vitro conservation. You know, when the organism is threatened or endangered, at that time we cannot conserve it in its natural habitat. We will be taking out from its natural habitat, which means option B, ex situ conservation is the correct answer. Next question. Initially, dash biodiversity hotspots were identified, but subsequently dash more have been added to the list, bringing the total number of biodiversity hotspots in the world to. When you look at the question, you can understand where the fill in the blanks were mentioned. See option A, 822, B11, C33. Option B, 824, B10, C33. Option B, 823, B11, C34. And option D, 825, B9, C34. So initially 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified, later 9 more were added and total number will be 34. So option D is the correct answer. Next question number 1 or 2. The hotspots that cover our country's exceptional high biodiversity regions are. Exceptional hotspots, we are talking about hotspots. See option A, Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. Option B, Indo-Burma. Option C, Himalaya. Option D, Eastern Ghats. So here, Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalaya, these are the biodiversity hotspots. And options they have given, option A and B, option B, B and C, option C, A, B, C, option D, A, B, C and D. So your option C, A, B and C is correct. So this completes today's class. In the next class, we need to know the importance of in situ conservation along with ex situ conservation.